So this is going to show you how to put together one of the more complex wedding invitations, and that way you understand all the different ways of assembling. To start off with the tools that I'm going to need, I love my double-sided tape dispenser. This thing is my saving grace. So I use these to tape the invitations together. If your invitations come with a twine or jute wrap, I'm going to need scissors and the twine. This is called a bone folder. The bone folder helps you put together some really nice creases if you need to fold any part of your invitation. For this invitation, I'm going to need to fold the belly band, which is the wrap that goes around the middle of the invitation, and I'm going to need to fold my envelope liner. So we'll use the bone folder for that, and I'll show you how to use that. This invitation also has grommets on some of the smaller pieces. So in order to put together a grommet, I need my hole puncher, which also has a little grommet tool on the end, and my grommets, as well as all the pages that you need for the invitation. And we'll show you how to do this in just a second. So this is what your actual taping machine is going to look like. There is a trigger on it. You need to press the trigger in when you run the tape across the paper. Otherwise it won't actually roll and stick to the paper. So I'll give you an example. We have this invitation that we're going to tape together. I need to flip the invitation itself over. And like I said, I'm going to press the trigger down and I'm going to roll this tape right down the page. Twist it. Roll that tape right down the page. I like to do all four corners, or all four sides, I would say. And if it does bubble like this, it's actually not that big of a deal. I just wipe it on there. It still creates a really flat taped surface. After I've gotten all four sides taped, then I do a cross mark in the middle so that it doesn't bubble. Just like that. Flip it over and make sure it's placed in the right spot, because this is definitely a permanent type of tape. Lay it down and you're good to go. It is really stuck on there. Okay, so like we showed you in the other video, we are going to just tape down this invitation. With an X in the center with my tape dispenser, and then stick it to its backing, and then that gets set aside. Next up are the envelope liners. So all I'm going to do, all of my envelopes, if you get the square flapped envelopes, come with a sticky tack across the top, so you don't have to lick any of your envelopes, which is awesome for however many wedding invitations you're putting together. If you're doing the partial assembly package or the full service package, which we assemble it all for you, but the partial assembly package comes with every piece already cut and ready for you to go. That also includes this embossing that you see here. This invitation set, for example, has embossing on the envelope liner. It has embossing on the invitation, and it has embossing on the monogram card, as well as on the back of the envelopes themselves. So there was quite a bit of embossing that went into this invitation, so it was well worth her time to have me put together printing it and then cutting it for her, so that all she has to do is assemble. So all I'm going to do with this envelope liner, let's get this invitation out of the way for a second. This envelope liner literally just slides in there, and you kind of get a feel for when it's centered, that you can see enough pink on either side. And I take my handy dandy taper, and I just run a line of tape right across the top. And the way that I cut these paper liners, it does somewhat overlap with this tape band across the top. That means when you peel off this, it actually sticks to that as well, and it gives you room to close your invitation too. So that's multi-purpose. I actually do that on purpose so that you don't have an envelope liner that's loose in there, but that gives you a general idea. In order to make the envelope liner fold where you want it to, there's a fold line right here across the envelope. I use my tool that's called the bone folder, and I find where the seam is on the invitation. You can kind of feel it. You take this bone folder and you just run it across the seam. And it is an awesome tool for making a really crisp, clean line when you close that envelope. And the last little trick that I'm going to show you here are the grommets. So, well, I call them grommets. I think sometimes people call them eyelets. I think eyelets are just smaller versions of grommets. Anyways, so they are these really small little soft metal pieces. I'll sit one out for you here. And what I do, I have this really handy tool. If you can see that there is a smaller hole punch here and a larger hole punch here. I always use the smaller hole punch because that's what works with these smaller little grommets. But when I punched holes in these, you can set this measurement thing. It clicks forwards and backwards so that you make sure you punch the hole in the same spot every single time. But I had it set up so that I could punch these holes into the monogram tags here. But all you do is you take this eyelet and you stick it in the hole just like that. And on the front end of your handy tool, there is a little, I guess a tab I would call it, and I stick that through the grommet, and all you do is press down once you get it through the grommet. When you press down, it makes it spread out on the back side and kind of grips that paper so that it's permanent. And there you go. Okay, next up is the belly band. The belly band is the strip that wraps around your invitation. A lot of invitations lately of mine have been using a rope like this, or jute rope, or even ribbon, but the old-fashioned way of doing it is using paper. And for this one specifically, I'm actually using paper and sort of a twine as well. What I like to do with the belly band is place my invitation on there and square it up, and take the tip of the bone folder and make a little crease. And I do that on both sides. And that way, when I need to fold the edges back, it automatically wants to fold along that crease. It starts making a nicer line for me. And then I finish the line by using this bone folding tool and pressing it down. So now it really kind of locks in to the invitation. I take my double-sided taper and run just a strip down the back side here and press it down, and there you go. That is the belly band for the invitations. All right, now I'm going to show you how to assemble all the pieces together. So you've got your invitation here with the belly band, your information card, your RSVP card, an envelope with an envelope liner. You have your monogram tag and your rope. So what I'm going to do is take the wedding information card and the RSVP card and just slide them into the front of the invitation. When I use rope like this, I find it's easiest to start with the monogram tag and run the rope through the monogram tag before you try to wrap it around the invitation, especially with this gold that I use. If you like this style where it's two-toned and wrapped, it wants to fray on the ends. So you get more out of your product if you start with your monogram tag first. So I am going to thread this through. And once I get it through, I find a good spot where it stopped fraying and I tie a knot in the end. And yes, this is part of hand making invitations, that it does take a little bit more time to make them look right. So what I do is take about the length that I'll need to make a bow, and I hold that on the front of the invitation, and I will literally just wrap it around a few times. Get some excess here. That way it's still pretty tight around the invitation. And I'm going to take my monogram card and I'm going to slide it up, and I'm going to tie my bow. If you want your card to dangle off of the end of your tie, then you can leave it where it was. But I like for my monogram card to be kind of tucked in. And I leave the knot where it is so that it doesn't fray anymore. But that is a bow around a belly band with your monogram. And then when you go to stuff your invitation, I always make sure to stuff them so that the text is up. So when you open the invitation like a normal right-handed person would open the invitation, it's right side up. I say normal right-handed person and I'm sometimes left-handed, so don't take offense. And there you go. You'd pull the tape off of this and seal it.